Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now today's video is a follow-up to a prior video I did on this Helikon-Tex Summit Backpack. The prior video was a full feature review, taking a look at the bag, giving my initial impressions, and kind of talking about what my intended purpose for that bag is. But at this point, I have had a great opportunity to carry this at length, putting on some significant miles and using this on a backpacking trip. So this video is more about my overall experience, how I enjoyed the bag, how it felt to carry it, and what I think of the overall features now that I've had a chance to use it. So what we're going to do is take a look at some of my field use video footage. That includes some of the terrain, some of the scenery and different things, but also some impressions while I was using the bag, and then we'll come back into the studio and I'll wrap up my thoughts. So if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I have to think about this Summit Backpack, do me a favor, stay tuned. So here I have my Summit Backpack all packed up and ready to go. It's almost bedtime for me, but a couple last little details here, making sure I'm ready for the morning. And you'll see that in order for me to get all my gear into this smallish 40-liter pack, I did need to add a couple of pockets on the side. Now, it's October right now. However, as I'm heading into the mountains, it is basically going to be sub-freezing. So I did need to prepare a little bit for that. We are doing a pretty extensive hike, about 8.1 miles to our campsite, where I'm going to be carrying all of this gear into the campsite and then setting up a camp and then pretty much stripping the bag down and getting to a summit. So the summit's going to be pretty blustery. It's calling for 20+ mile-an-hour winds and certainly sub-freezing temperatures, so I did need to be ready for that. So I have a little bit of extra warmth, both in the clothing that I'm going to be wearing, but then also in my shelter. And so some of my quick observations, setting this up, I did struggle just a little bit. I found as though if I had some lashing points up higher, it would have been a lot easier to do what I needed to do. Say, for example, where I'm trying to carry this stool. I really had to get creative, and because of certain straps that I owned, other than the backpack, I was able to do what I needed to, but it required me having some very specific straps. And so it would have been very nice to have a couple of neat little lashing points up here. So that is one of my first comments, is just to add some additional bits of this Molly light. I mean, if you see here some of this really thin webbing, it does not add all that much in the way of weight. But it would certainly add a ton of functionality. So I'm saying just a little bit up in here would have been great. Maybe just a couple of lashing points right on the top would have given me some very substantial overall ability to add more gear in a better overall connected and cohesive fashion for this bag. Now, Helikon-Tex does have some pouches that you can get from them. I opted to use these larger sort of US Army pouch attachments here, one on each side. So this has some of my basic essentials that I need to get to while I'm hiking, and this is going to have all of my food. Now, I found as though it would have been a little bit better, again, to have some additional Molly just up higher here. Maybe 1 or 2 more rows. Now, I'll give it to you that there is the strap here. However, I think a couple of additional rows would have been excellent for me to get the pouches just a little bit higher, which would have allowed me to also use these lower mesh pockets. I cannot use these pockets with the current configuration, but I really did need some additional volume here to make this bag work. And finally, if there was some Molly on the very bottom of the bag, I could have attached my sleep system here. And that would have worked out very well. And in that regard, if I was able to do that, I'm quite sure I would have been able to get away without these side pockets altogether. And then my bag profile would have been nice and very slim. That's the one thing that this Summit Backpack is beautifully constructed overall and has just a great shape and carry profile. But now that I'm starting to bolt things onto the side, it's getting a little bulkier and kind of getting away from the original intended purpose. So I think if there was just a little bit more attention to some strategically placed lashing points, this bag would go from, in my opinion, like an 8 out of a 10 to pretty much a 10 out of 10. I mean, overall, I think I'm going to very much like this. It seems like it's going to carry well, and I'm hoping that my initial impression is right on and that tomorrow I have myself a wonderful hike. So at this point, I have my bag completely packed up except for just my food. This is sort of some of the stuff I'm going to keep cold and pack it in the morning. Now, I do already have my water in here, but what I'm going to do is just jump on the scale real quick. So hopping on here, 174.6 without any gear. And now picking up my bag and my food, taking a look, 210.6. So with all my food and water, all my gear and everything ready to go, I'm ringing in right around the 36-pound mark. So that for me is actually a victory. I'm not usually that light in my gear, so carrying the smaller bag and keeping the overall load down to just the essentials is certainly working. So that is a great thing. And at this point, I got to get myself some good quality rest. And we're going to see you tomorrow on the trails.
Just in case.
I wait till we get there.
Alright, cool.
Ready? So it's raining on us just a little bit, nothing too crazy, but a constant sort of light drizzle and drops. And I'm just kind of taking a quick look at the bag. So far everything beating up reasonably well. Looks like a little bit of water's kind of soaking into some of the fabric, but generally speaking, I'm hoping this is gonna do a pretty good job keeping my gear dry. So overall, so far the bag's been pretty good. It's carrying nice. Feels great on my back, and with this weight, it's just about perfect. The one thing that's really kind of bugging me is down on my hips. I have my water bottle and then my little camera pouch, and it's kind of driving me crazy where this thing's sliding all over the place, and when I go to take the bag off and put it back on, these are really coming off. I know that's not the original intention of this bag to have the pockets here, but personally for me and the way I like to carry my stuff and have it kind of at my fingertips, I really need that. So instead of having these pockets, I really would have preferred, where this is a semi-tactical bag, just to have the MOLLE on the sides where I could have connected these pouches, and it does still leave it equally versatile for a number of different users.
Yeah, I'd do it early.
you feeling?
Feeling good.
Good. So at this point we've reached our campsite, and here you'll see that I have my bag as I carried it. And one of the frustrating things to me, like I mentioned, just not having some additional lashing points. I had a little bit of a hard time carrying some of the things I wanted to the way I did, and you can see they're kind of sliding around. Now I have to say, in general, the carry was awesome. I really do like this bag. It's a great size. It's comfortable on my shoulders. I've carried it for 8.5 miles. 0 hot spots. 0. Rode perfectly, and I have everything I need with me. So at this point, I'm basically going to join the rest of the guys and set up our campsite. We got a pretty cool spot here where we're actually taking advantage of a pre-existing campsite with some dedicated, almost platforms, and going to get myself set up here and enjoy myself a good afternoon of camping. So one of the aspects that I really do enjoy of the bag is the roll top design. You'll see that you can get to it from the front compartment, but the top, being that roll top design, is great. And I'm curious to see if there's any moisture in here. I'm going to guarantee that there's not. You know, it wasn't really ever raining very hard, and you'll see that the inside of the bag is essentially treated. Now you can see a little bit of moisture penetration on the outside, but when you look at the inside, there's absolutely none. So the idea that, you know, and I'd be curious to try this in heavier rain, but the idea that you might not necessarily need a pack cover is definitely a plus with this bag. So at this point, I'm pretty much working out of the top of my bag and trying to get myself situated here. So I'm gonna get to work and set my camp up. So there was my trip footage. Overall, a great backpack. I very much enjoyed carrying this. It felt great on my back. After miles and miles of carrying this, I can say I did very much enjoy it. Now, granted, I never did really make it up to my summit. The weather in that particular camping trip was very dangerous. It did not allow me to make the summit, which is kind of a shame. I really did want to see how this was to carry it up significant elevation gain, and I didn't get to do that. However, I did pack on the mile, so after about 20 miles of hiking, it was great to have this on my back the entire time. no hot spots, felt excellent, carried wonderfully, and in my opinion is a very good bag. Now, with that said, there were a few things that I think I would really like to change. You heard me suggesting some additional lashing points. That, first and foremost, is the biggest thing I can say would take this bag from what I'm going to say is like an 8 out of a 10 and would make it a 10 out of 10. Now, a few things that I think Helikon-Tex should really consider, and I think this is the case for a lot of companies. When you have a bag that's somewhat modular in that semi-tactical style or genre, now granted this is a little less than other bags, however, you do end up with the ability to connect pouches with the MOLLE attachments. They should really be thinking about very specific pouches to enhance these exact packs. So making pouches that are specific to fitting the shape and the layout and the size and the intended use for these types of bags. And so in that regard, I think the pouches that Helikon-Tex actually sells and provides aren't quite perfect for this bag. They would work and they would provide some additional overall volume, but I needed to use some pouches that I had, being those U.S. military pouches, to really give it the usability and overall function that I needed. Now, generally speaking, the mesh was great. I did like the ability to stuff some things in the outside. You'll see that I used it for my jacket and for my poncho. And then the straps were all solid and the buckles were sound. Everything about this bag worked great. I did like the ability to have both the front zip, but more importantly, that roll top design, which I have grown to greatly like. Now, even though this bag doesn't have a ton in the way of overall lumbar support, I found as though I still greatly liked the way it felt on my back. I actually liked the fact that it was a little bit on the flat side. It was kind of refreshing. I've had a lot of bags lately that really stand far off of your back, but for this, it really felt good, and I feel as though the air movement was ample. The overall contouring and texturing felt good on my back. Again, created no hot spots and was comfortable mile after mile. And in that regard, the shoulder straps were great. I think they fit perfectly, fit my particular body size, perfect, and felt very good to carry. Now, the waist belt also was very good. However, again, I would just love to see that MOLLE on the waist belt to give you the versatility and flexibility to add different pouches versus being stuck with these pockets on the side. Now, with that said, I think the only additional thing that could be added to this would be a little connection point to maybe stuff a head pack on here. At 40 liters, this is a good size, but if you were going to use this for significant backpacking, I think having a little extra volume would be helpful. So what I personally like is a nice slim profile. I like when the bag is slim and fits within the width of my body. You'll notice that the pouches I added pushed it a little bit further out. That it reduces the overall mobility and also adds a little bit of kind of cumbersomeness to it. But for me, if you could add something like a little head pack and get it on here, maybe a couple of clips just to clip the head pack on, and then again, some lashing points on the bottom for either your tent, your shelter system, or a bedroll or something like that would work out pretty good. But generally speaking, I am very happy with this product, and I can say I definitely recommend it. More than other bags I've carried recently, I did greatly enjoy this. It fits my style, fits my kind of genre, is that great balance between a backpacking bag and a tactical bag, which I like. It's lightweight, totally capable, held the load nicely, and performed extremely well. So alright guys, there you have it, a quick look at this Summit Backpack. Now you've seen it in the studio with my first impressions, now you've seen it on the trails. I hope you liked some of that scenery, and that was a trip that I definitely enjoyed. So again, I'd like to say thank you very much to the people at Helikon-Tex for providing this for review. I appreciate it. This bag performed extremely well, and I'm looking forward to the next product by Helikon-Tex. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.